Good morning. My name is Kanasha Brown. I have the honor and privilege of serving TUSD as the Assistant Superintendent of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusiveness. We at TUSD have some exciting things going on, and our partnership and today is just the beginning. You know, this year we are excited that in Tucson Unified, we are engaging our strategic plan, and in that plan is a renewed commitment to our business partnerships. So you're going to be hearing a lot about how we want to connect our businesses not only to our communal effort, but also to our students as well. So you are in for an absolutely exciting day. And so you're going to get the opportunity today to see our magnet programs in action. And you're going to see wonderful children, and you're going to see a dedicated teaching staff. You're going to see proud principals. You're going to see community members. But the one thing that I want you to take from this tour is to continuously think about how we can come together. Because when we come together, Tucson definitely benefits.
My name is Ricky Hernandez. I'm the CFO here at Tucson Unified School District. I'm also the parent of two TUSD kids, one of them in a magnet school. Principal sitting like right here. He's a Drachman Dragon. Both of my kids have been Drachman Dragons. So I'm a magnet parent, so I'm glad that you guys got to experience what my kid gets to experience every single day. Without further ado, so I have the privilege of actually leading this panel, and I'm going to try to kind of keep it moving, interesting, maybe a little bit of funny. If I catch you dozing off, I'm gonna walk up to you, Twyla Busby. So there you go. Somebody's got a spoon. All right. But we're gonna go ahead and get started with the lovely and talented Kanasha Brown. She's got the first question. Yay. All right. So how do you answer this question? What are magnet schools, and what does an ideal magnet school look like?
Wow. He gave me that question, right? So ideally, when we talk about magnet schools really are a response to what equity truly is. It eliminates barriers. It's opportunities for access, it's opportunities to engage in high-quality educational programs. And magnet schools have a long-standing history in our U.S. educational system. You know, magnet schools really first started to get momentum during the civil rights movement, and it was really a response to integrating. And when I talk about integrating, I'm talking about across various different subgroups, because we know that historically some of our subgroups have been marginalized and not been able to take access to public education. And so magnet schools were the remedy to that. And so that's the first part of it. So when you think about a magnet school, think about what kind of institution or program would espouse equity. What is designed to give every student absolutely what they need? Where is a place that you can go where there is not things such as racial isolation, or we don't have access, or there are not high quality programs for all of our students, regardless to whatever socioeconomic status or how you identify. So that's truly what a magnet school is. The second part, what does an ideal magnet school look like? Well, it has three things, and this is how we define them in TUSD. Number one, our magnet schools are high quality, so we define them as having a letter grade of an A or a B. And why is that important? Because when we create access to these programs, we don't create access to failing schools. And so our Arizona Department of Education defines and recognizes schools by letter grades. And so for us, the very first thing on an ideal magnet, you should have an outstanding letter grade. It should be an A or a B. We don't send kids to failing schools. The next thing is that your magnet should be integrated. And we take pride in that all 12 of our magnets in TUSD are integrated. What does that mean for us? That yes, where we do have our student demographic and student population is diverse, we don't see any concentrated subgroups that exceed over 70% of our population. So that diversity and that diversity of experience for our students only enhances the educational and experience. And I would say last but not least, we want to be recognized for quality. So ideally, it's not about what we say, it's about how we're recognized as a district for our magnet programs. And so all of our schools go through a rigorous process of being what's called MSA certified, and that's through the Magnet Schools of America. They have worked closely at the federal government level and at state and local levels to create a framework. And so we require, I shouldn't say require, I might get in trouble. She said, I know the pressure you put on me. Did you see that? Dr. Stroger? But no, we are pushing all of our magnet schools to have those three things. Number one, a letter grade of an A or a B, to be integrated, which all 12 schools currently are, and also to be recognized at the national level.
Did you get all that? Okay.
In
That was
other
a great
words, we're
answer.
good. We're just that
so
good.
I
at
just want the other
TUSD.
4 panelists to recognize that she has now set the standard for answers. So, just FYI. All right, so next we have Mr. Cameron Taravati with the next question. So, just so you all know, you will have quizzes after this, so if you're not taking notes, you need to do so now. All right, so Mr. Taravati, tell us, what are the common misconceptions people have about magnet schools in TUSD? And what do we do and how do we go about, combating these misconceptions and communicating our messaging more effectively?
It's a great question. So I think one of the common misconceptions people might have is that magnet schools only focus on the theme that's specific to their magnet. So if that's a STEM magnet, if it's a little language magnet, if it's an arts-based magnet, that it's all arts, it's all STEM, it's all one of these thematic experiences. But the reality is, as Ms. Brown spoke to, magnets have a lot of just weight on their shoulders, because not only do they have to provide this thematic experience at Holiday of the Arts, or a dual language experience at Roskridge, or a STEM experience at Palo Verde, but they also have to dedicate themselves to the continuous improvement cycle to focus on strong academic outcomes for students. That's why we see letter grades of A and B at our magnet schools. That's why we see such high expectations for our magnet leaders going through MSA certification. That's why we see just systems related to continuous progress monitoring, continuous improvement practices, continuous visits from the magnet department to make sure that we have just a sophisticated dedication to that continuous improvement cycle and to all magnet schools to create that high quality magnet that Ms. Brown is referencing. In addition to that, I think that sometimes magnet schools say, well, you're able to do this or that. You're able to have success because you have all of these resources at your disposal. And so that too is just another misconception. Although they have financial benefits to being a magnet, they also have just incredible accountability. They're asked to do so much as a magnet school. We asked to do walkthroughs just with such rigor and fidelity that it really supports the instructional practice. It really ensures that not only is the magnet itself high quality, but teaching is high quality. And that's what we want for every student in TUSD, and that's what we want for every magnet school in this district.
Awesome. I mean, and I think if you allow me to kind of tap onto that, some of the greatest ambassadors you have for some of that messaging are the kids that we produce, right? What they garner and what they get from those programs and the level of achievement they're able to make as they make their way through TUSD schools only serves as a greater example of the power of magnet schools. So, let's not forget it's all about the kids, Cam, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that, Ricky. Thank you. Yes, yeah. The other piece, just in terms of communication, is how do we get that narrative out that, listen, magnet schools are the cream of the crop. Magnet schools are high quality institutions, but they have so much weight on their shoulders is through events like this. so that we can all just learn about magnet schools. We can learn about the MSc certification process. We can learn about the pieces related to enrollment and achievement and theme integration. And then we would just ask you, help us get that narrative out. Help us be a partner. Get into our schools to volunteer. Get into our schools to be to have just community representation, because it takes every single person in this room to do their part for kids. That's what that is.
Nice. Okay. Thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Answer. So next up, well, I can't really say anything bad, other than he's the only ASU Sun Devil I will ever work for. So, our district superintendent, Dr. Gabriel Trujillo, he has the next question. So, Dr. Trujillo, can you tell us how district leadership empowers stakeholders from industry to inform our magnet school programming?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, and the number one answer is through relationships. Industry decision makers, industry practitioners that are tremendous resources, or that can be tremendous resources to our magnet programs, they never know that they're resources if they don't know what we're doing, if they don't know about our programs, if they don't have relationships with district leaders, governing board members, which is a first step to being able to connect them to the school. And I see a lot of industry leaders right in here. I'm sitting right in front of TEP leadership. That's great. That's very, very important, especially when you look at the magnet themes. You want those relationships. You want access to industry coming in and working with our kids and training our teachers, because through those partnerships, we can provide high-quality professional development. It's not always about money, right? It's about access. It's about access to professional development coming in from the field trip opportunities for our students. We see that a lot with our CTE programs, where we have those partnerships, which are a little stronger than other programs that we have in the district. So the PD, the equipment, the expertise, all of that is extremely important when you're talking about magnet themes like the broadcast arts, when you're talking about performance and visual arts, and the partnerships that those magnet programs have with the University of Arizona. Those are extremely important. So I think my role and the role of district leadership and our governing board members, we have to be messengers. We have to be well informed about our magnet programs, about the power of magnet programs, not just to push a school forward academically, but also to integrate it, and then also to bring new students into the district, which from my perspective, that's kind of the third goal, is magnets are the tip of the spear to increase enrollment overall in the district. And we see obviously the highest rates of open enrollment where they're going. They're going into our magnet schools and our GATE programs, which are proudly funded through our desegregation efforts. So that to me is probably going to be the most important aspect of that question.
Exactly. It's partnerships in whatever we do in our community as a school district. But in magnet schools, they matter so much because of exactly what Dr. Trujillo was saying, right? What we're trying to do and produce with our kids in our schools. So next we have an incredible school. I mean, with the exception of Drachman. So, because I have to play favorites, right? That's right. That's, sorry.
I get it.
All right. But I was one of the ambassadors at the opening of school at Holiday. I got to spend a few days at Holiday. I got to tell you, it's an incredible looking campus. I got to walk around. It's definitely a gem in the middle of something that you would probably not expect to find. But it's a beautiful little community that you've got down there. So, Dr. Tanya Strozier?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I don't annihilate your last name because it's important. So, the principal at Holiday, tell us or highlight for us a successful community or business partnership in your school. What are they doing, and how can other TUSD magnet schools borrow from or capitalize on that type of success that you've built?
One that I would like to highlight is actually with Sharon, Stories That Soar, and it's just been an incredible benefit to our campus. We're utilizing Stories That Soar in 3 different ways. One is they have a program where they come out and there's a magic box that students feed their written stories or pictures, and I have to say that the most incredible impact that it's had on our community is that it really sparked a love for writing, and that has just just went throughout our campus, and students are feeding that magic box, like they're running. Classes are coming to feed their stories and their pictures to the magic box, and then they'll take those pictures and then they'll turn it into a production that will happen on December 9th. And so this is one of the ways that we're able to demonstrate our art integration, because it brings together artistry along with a content area like writing. So we have the Magic Box, and then we also have Stories That Soar on our Magnet Wednesdays, which is where students choose an art major that they're in for 2 hours a day, and one of our options is through Stories That Soar. And so students are learning all these different skills, and it's not just the artistry skills or that they're learning, but it's really building their self-confidence and their communication, problem-solving skills, and it's just even just self-regulation is another benefit. And then we also have Stories That Soar as a part of our Creative Arts After School program. And I was telling Sharon that my son actually dropped out of guitar. We couldn't find him one day, and it's because he left and went to Stories That Soar. So he's like, no, I want to be over there. And that's what we want. We want kids to be where they want to be, in art majors that help them flourish and tap into their hidden creativity. And so this partnership has really just opened up a whole new door for our students to be able to express themselves. One of our universal art integration strategies is dramatic movement and dramatic expression, which we partner with Jordan at the Fox Theater, who's come in and done PD for us as well. And so we use that artistry, this dramatic, we call it dramatic movement, for kids to be able to express what they learn. And so we use it to teach, as a vehicle to teach our different core areas, but also as a way for students to demonstrate their understanding. So for us, these partnerships are essential because they tap into the artistry that we're trying to foster and create in our students.
Wow. I mean, it's just, that's all I have to say is wow. And guitar for, wow, all right.
Yeah. He jumped, he just
The
left.
only question I have is, how do I keep my kid from reading chemistry books so that he doesn't think he can actually do chemistry in our kitchen? I just, and he's 8. Just, I'm wondering. If you can help me out with that, that'd be fantastic.
That sounds like a great problem. Cooking is chemistry.
Cooking is chemistry, and we've told him that. But that means he wants to go in our pantry and take out flour, and yeah, it's, don't mess with butter in my house is our quote. But with that, the artistic director of Literacy Connect, Sharon O'Brien, you have our next question. And just before I ask that question, everybody in the audience, if you have questions, things that may come to your mind as we finish up with the panel, you'll have an opportunity to ask them what's on your mind. So make sure the questions are hard, okay? Just kind of throwing it out there. We know that community and business partnerships bring many opportunities to our magnet students. But on the flip side, what are the benefits that the community and business side gains from business side of the partnership? How do you benefit?
Wow, well, every school has a mission, right? And you have your core values. Well, as a nonprofit, so do we. We have our mission and we have our values. And then there's some deeper things so we set, as Tanya was saying, all of our programs, all of our partners get the benefits of literacy and the arts. But not all of the partners engage at that deeper level of youth empowerment, of student voice, of connecting kids to opportunities. And so as a nonprofit, our stakeholders invest in us because we can provide stories of impact. And when we have partners that really go deep with the partnership and engage on that deeper level, the stories and the impact is at a much higher level. So what we get back are these opportunities to not only work with leaders who really get the program at a very deep level, students who want this program, not just by default because they're at a school and the Magic Box is there and they're excited. Yes, that happens. But when you have kids and families who are choosing this as a route and as a passion, as a theme for learning, then the kids give us more, and therefore we can have a greater impact. We also partnered with Wakefield, and I know they're not an official magnet, but I know they're an application school, and they're they're project-based learning. And so our after-school program is project-based learning. And so when you have a school that really buys into that, and kids who want to work at a higher level, you get, I mean, we got, they chose to work on a social justice issue, digital equity. And that doesn't happen at your average school. That happens at schools that have that higher level interest and parental involvement, the leadership involvement. And this video that these kids made at Wakefield is now being shared nationally. Their voice is now being heard, what they care about, how they speak. And that's our mission. Our mission is connecting people to a world of opportunities. And so when we're working with partners who share that value, we're just going to get a much higher level result that we can then share with our community.
And it's cyclical, because then
Yeah.
your success means our success, and you can continue to build success, right? So
Absolutely.
we help each other out more than anything else as a community. We build community. I didn't know somebody from Wakefield is here. So my other son goes to Wakefield. So you're gonna have to share the trophy, Jesus. I'm sorry. All right, so that is all the questions I have for the panels. I'm opening it up to the floor now. So questions, raise your hand. We'll run over to you. I'm looking at Frank. I know, Frank, you've got a question festering in your head, man. Come on, you were the principal of a magnet school. That's the definition of were. Or Debbie, former principal of Utterback Magnet School.
I think there's a question.
Oh, do we have one? All right,
Hello.
Mark Alvarez. Where?
Okay, I'm half blind. Okay, so you're gonna have to go like this.
Here, I'll get there first.
Okay, you might as well. Yeah, okay.
So I'd just like to say thank you, as a daughter of two educators, for what you do every day. And I just love the example when we were at Holiday and the ambassadors that were there, is not so much when your students succeed, but sometimes what they learn by not getting it done right the first time. Right, so we had a young lady who was there, and you could just see she had practiced, and it was her moment. And she didn't get it right the first time, but she was encouraged to keep going until she got it right. And she was a little deflated, but everyone went around her and gave her that support. And that's how you build leaders. So thank you.
Nice. Next question. Oh, come on. Shauna, come on. You're the principal of Tucson High at some point. Come on.
At one time, right?
At one time.
Right, Shauna?
Again, the past tense of is was.
That's the best answer I'll have to do. At one time, I was a principal.
Thanks, Ricky. So one question, and I can speak to this, but I know that any member on that panel can speak to it, is I think it's important to highlight that while all of us in this room are proponents of post-secondary education, but one thing I loved about the Magnet program specifically, I was at Tucson High at one time, and is that there are students that just aren't built to go on to college, right? Your 4-year universities, even your 2-year. And one thing that was so impressive is these young people that were able to get their CTE certifications and go right into industry and just make a really lucrative living out of their craft and what they learned at the high school. And ours specifically was in welding and precision machining. And so for those kiddos that we preach, since they're this big about school and college, and especially these millennials who have different ways of earning money, they want to go right in there and get started and start making a living. And that's something that magnet schools do allow and provide opportunity for.
Awesome.
I don't know if that was a question, but yeah.
There we go.
I do think the pressure is on for CTE to do a symposium like this.
Well, somebody let
Magnet
Chuck
has set
know.
the bar really high.
Flory here. Somebody let Chuck know.
I have a question.
Oh, yay.
So
Frank.
this is for more of the central leadership in the sense of supporting that principle. And the reason I said at one time is that I was a magnet school. Cholla High School had a magnet. It was law enforcement and global society in this sense that we lost it. It was $1.1 million. At this point, my question to the panelists, especially central leadership, what support are you providing those principals that are not meeting that criteria that you have set to support them in that endeavor? Because I will tell you, as a product of TUSD, losing my magnet for my students, it was devastating. But I was very fortunate that we had some support to go through other avenues of funding. But it is real for a principal to lose that magnet and to convey to their community that they're going to lose $1.1 million. So how do you support that? How will you assist them in that transition if they do not succeed to the criteria that you've set forth?
I'm going to take that. So I'm Cameron Tarabati. I'm the Senior Director in Equity. So I oversee magnet schools with a team. And I work under the amazing Kanasha Brown, who keeps me grounded every single day and is a mentor and a thought partner and an ally. I'd also like to point out that Frank's office is literally 4 feet from mine. So he could have totally asked that question any day of the week.
You're still not answering the question.
Yeah.
He wants to know how you're going to support principals. Come on.
So I think that, just as Ms. O'Brien was referencing it, we have a purpose in the magnet department. And we have a common core value around meeting people where they're at. And I think our vision for magnet principals is knowing that all of the principals in magnet come with a varied set of experiences, a varied background, a varied passion, and we want to honor and respect each of that. We realize that some have been magnet principals a year to 2 years, some are in their first year at magnet, and some are in their, I was trying to do the math, Dr. Salaya, sorry, 17th year. And so because of that, we have to meet them where they're at. That means for some, developing that sense around instructional leadership by doing walkthroughs, by talking magnet, by guiding them through their magnet school site plan, by really educating them on the pillars of magnet, by educating them on the MSc standards. But it also just means sometimes, Frank, just listening and reacting and hearing and advocating. And so for us, I think we try to do a lot of that in our department, because I don't want to communicate on behalf of the department that we're an expert in Montessori, that we're an expert in fine arts, because we're not. We're a collaborator. We're in this work together. And so when I think about support, I think about just the consistency of showing up to sites and doing walkthroughs and talking the talk around site plans, identifying needs at that individual site specific to these kinds of events, to community partnerships. If it's a scenario where there might be a teacher that needs some additional assistance or a student that might need additional assistance, we provide that. And one of the coolest things that I think I'm probably most proud of in regards to that support doesn't necessarily come from the magnet department, but we're a part of equity. We live in the equity house. And the reason for that is the heart of magnet is to remove barriers and create access, right? Referencing what Shauna was talking about, just in terms of creating college pathways for students, but also career pathways. That's about removing barriers and creating access, which is at the heart of EDI. But the thing that I'm most proud of is when there's a family in crisis in TUSD or a family in crisis in Magnet, Ms. Brown immediately calls a huddle, we come together, and we figure out how to get resources to families immediately. So that's the level of support, from the instructional leadership to the individual student, to the family, to the principal, and that work done with integrity and fidelity. I think that's our vision.
Dr. Trujillo?
Yeah, I think from the 30,000-foot perspective, or when you're looking at financially calamitous situations where a school might lose its magnet, they might lose magnet money, we're talking about two strategies now, because I think there's a couple of important items we need to note. And it's a celebration that this district is no longer under a court order, okay, to desegregate. That deserves a round of applause. It really does, right? So as hard as the district has been beat up and kicked in the face for being under court supervision, I do think that the public and the community owes it the same level of appreciation for being out of court supervision, for successfully integrating campuses and meeting the requirements of the court order. But in this post-court order world, when we're running into a situation like which Frank is brought forward, which he lived through, which was, I was here, it was my first year in the district, it was very painful for the 6 communities that had lost their magnet status, Cholla being one. We also experienced the same pain over at places like Ochoa and then also over at Utterback. Each community really experienced this in a very, very painful way. But now we have new flexibility now. So if a school runs into that issue again, we have new autonomy with our desegregation funds to move in and provide extended support to magnets, whether that's school improvement initiatives, if they're struggling with math, to hold on to a B label. We might now be able to go in above and beyond a staffing ratio for math teachers for smaller class sizes. We might be able to fund additional math interventionists out of the magnet budget or out of the desegregation budget, because we have that new autonomy now where we don't necessarily need to work with the court. Because now we can make that call. Our governing board can make that call. So that gives us really just more tools in the toolbox to go ahead and support magnets, especially in school improvement areas. And at the same time, the new landscape is also going to be more difficult for integration, because in the post-court order world, we're no longer able, as we were under court order, in lottery situations to look at the ethnicity of the student wanting to come into a magnet school. That was a big tool in the toolbox to achieve integration percentages across our magnet schools, and we're only able to do that under court supervision. Court supervision is over. Now we have to develop a lottery system that does not take into consideration the ethnicity of the student coming in, and that's something that we're working on. The extent to which that's going to affect integration percentages going forward, we don't know. And that's just a challenge that's going to be out there. I think school letter grades, one of the things that I will support, I mean, there's a lot of issues I have with the school accountability formula developed by the State Board of Ed. But one issue I don't have is that it's based off growth. And I stand fully behind that. That the letter grades that you're going to see coming forward, more than 65% of the overall school accountability formula is based off of academic growth. Meaning, school, to what extent did your kids pass the test versus to what extent do your kids know more? Did your kids learn more in English language arts and math at this time of the year versus last year? That's growth. And that's the definition of learning. That's the definition of teacher success and student achievement. So the letter grades that are going to be coming out are a reflection of tremendous growth. And I think you're going to see magnets leading the way. We're very, very excited. But I just wanted to extend on a little bit to that answer of what it looks like sort of from a superintendent governing board level, with funding and flexibility being able to move in and support a principal. And also be very honest about the challenge of maintaining integration levels, because it's going to be a challenge. And I think another misconception about magnet schools is that they purely serve magnet students coming in for the magnet theme. They actually function as neighborhood schools as well. So they have to accept every single student that's in the immediate zone of attendance of the particular school, which also is a challenge to balance integration, right? So we have some challenges moving forward, but at the same time, we have new autonomy and independence and flexibility with our desegregation efforts in our funds.
One more. Can I ask the last question? Yeah. So I was looking out in the audience and I saw Maggie Schaefer's face. For those of you who don't know, Maggie Schaefer works at the College of Education at the University of Arizona. Was an incredible principal in TUSD for many years. I don't know all the schools you were at, Maggie. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I still don't remember what that is. Robbins.
I could have answered that.
All I know is Maggie's a lot smarter than I am. So, but my question after looking at Maggie's face is, and I'm going to ask Dr. Tanya right here. Our public institutions, community colleges do an incredible job of preparing teachers, to go into the classroom or wherever they go. But what do you look for uniquely in teachers who want to go and teach in magnet schools? Like, what kind of characteristics do you need to be at a holiday magnet?
Well, I think that our approach is a little bit non-traditional. So there's a Hebrew word, and it's called bashirt. And bashirt means meant to be. And so when my team sits down to interview someone, we look for the meant to be. We don't necessarily look for skill, we look more for the heart. Because I can give you skill, but I can't give you heart. And so my team and I sit in an interview, and we just make eye contact with each other, and we give each other the nod. And if it's bashirt, we're going to offer right there. And that's just the way that we do it. I don't know how other people do it, but for us, it has to be bashirt. It has to be meant to be that you're here. Because I think if you don't love kids, we're going to know very quickly. And that's my ask, and that's what our teachers do, is that we genuinely love our kids, and that love comes out in all that we do. And so, and we do recognize that when graduates come out of the school, that there is a tremendous amount that needs to be invested in them to meet the rigor of a magnet school, and we make that investment. But for us, it starts with Bashir. It's meant to be.
All right. Oh, man. Okay, you're the last question. For real, man.
There's a question over here.
And one more. Who else had a question over here, just to make sure we don't miss you? Okay. So we'll start back here, and then we'll come over here.
So we saw some amazing schools today. They're doing some fantastic things. So kudos to all you guys, and also to all your ambassadors, as somebody mentioned earlier. So we see that the magnet schools are, they're a fantastic model. But my question is, how can we replicate that to our other schools? And also, happy birthday to Brian Lambert, by the way.
Ms. Brown would like to
I can answer just part of that. So we've tried to do some of that. When Utterback lost its performance arts magnet, we tried to replace all the performance arts pieces with just regular district budget maintenance and operation money, and that just didn't go very far. It's a funding question. The direct answer is, how do you replicate the programming? The programming is funded by an outside source called desegregation funds that we levy from the community to provide these programs and opportunities to kids. When you don't have that, all you're left over is with the regular district budget. So in the case of Utterback, we went in and we put back the dance teacher, we put back the choir teacher, we put back the band teacher, and now we have sort of this fully functioning performance arts team that we had before it was stripped of its magnet. But it's not cheap, and it's costing a lot of money. So replication is dependent on the level of funding that we're provided in the district, or the district's willingness to go through the process to designate us another school magnet, which is a lengthy process and could potentially require levying more funds from the community.
You know, that pretty much answered my question, was just, how can we get more of these schools to become magnet programs, or is there just like a cap on funding at some point where we have to say no, past the 12 schools that are already magnet schools?
Well, you're right. Right now there's a cap on funding, on what we can levy from the community for desegregation. It's $62 million for operation, for what would be known as maintenance and operations, and then there's another $3 million for capital needs. And that $3 million for capital doesn't go very far when you're talking about all the magnet schools, and then not only the magnet schools, but the unitary status plan programming, gifted and talented education, two-way dual language. So we would have to go through a pretty lengthy process, to determine what additional schools might be considered magnet. We'd have to re-examine the desegregation budget, identify areas where we could free up the necessary funding inside of the 62 mil. And then we would have to go before our board and present what's called a performance impact analysis, because then you're starting to cut other programs to try to make room for an additional magnet. So ideally, you want the funding externally. You want the funding in your regular district budget to be able to replicate. But last time I checked, the legislature's not going to be giving public schools money, additional money, anytime soon. So,
all right.
One of the ways to replicate is, and we're sitting in front of many of you here, is the community and partnerships. When a school does not have that as a magnet, we go through all that process and having to do all that paperwork and all this mumbo jumbo. We do depend on the community. And the community can be a very, very viable resource when it comes to funds, when it comes to resources, when it comes to even a theme of our schools. A few years ago, we used to have, they weren't magnet, but they were, what were they called, Ricky? They were called something schools. Choice schools. Choice schools. Thank you. That's my ex-boss right there, and my real boss right now. Sorry. So they were called choice schools, and a lot of it was funded by community partnerships. So again, that falls on our principals who have, like I always say, a million things to do before 10 o'clock in the morning. But one of the things too is we ask to really reach out to the partners, partnerships. Go show off your school, get those community resources to really help and can leverage those funds to kind of replicate, as you were saying, the magnet themes and kind of your choice themes of schools.
And Jeff Sawyer back there is like Mr. Community Partnerships, right? That's what I've heard. So don't roll your eyes at me, young man. I know where you work. So Cam, you had a little bit to add to that, or?
No, I think Mr. Alvarez kind of stole that thunder. I think one very, very actionable way to do that is just spread the word about tax credit dollars. TUSD is an organization that accepts your donations for tax credit money, which we have the CFO of TUSD in-house who can explain a little bit more about tax credit and the way that works. But that's just an easy way to add to just resources to a school. And another way, as Mr. Alvarez absolutely pointed out, is just by being our partner and being our ally and doing this work together.
So instead of me explaining tax credit dollars, I'm going to look at Dr. Salaya because I've seen him do this presentation on what tax credit dollars every year at the parent meeting. So I'm going to have one of our principals tell us what tax credit dollars are.
So what I say at all of our assemblies, I say, raise your hand if you work in Arizona and you get paid and you have taxes that go to Arizona. So let's do that here. Raise your hand if you work in Arizona. Okay, so you can choose for up to, doesn't have to be this amount. If it's a single tax thing, $200. If it's a couple thing, it's $400. Can go to a place you designate when it comes to public schools. And thank you for picking us instead of Wakefield or Mansfield at directly. But it could be as small as like $3, $5, whatever you want. Really easy to do. You could do it with a credit card. You could do it up in the front office. Really simple process. You get a thank you card for us. You get to see how it gets contributed. At our school, it goes to 4 simple places, undesignated, where we kind of choose what we do with it. To also for interscholastics, we do it for fine arts, we do it for a little bit of our ecology program. I think there's a 5th, and also for field trips. So you could actually sponsor an entire field trip for a whole class by donating tax credit. So really simple process. You get the money back when you do your taxes in the spring. So that way it doesn't get spent up in another place like Maricopa or something like that. It gets spent at our site. So,
boom. Done. See? Okay, we're going to add to that.
So one of the things that's so easy to do, you just go online, you can actually find the schools that are in need. And that's one of the things that when you go to the TUSD website, yes, you can actually find the schools that need more of your dollars and direct them that way too. So that's always a nice way to say if it's not the one that's in your backyard, you can also say what is in a school that needs it more.
Yes. TUSD1.org, there's a nice little banner that our incredible communications team has put together, and you can find every single one of our schools and all of their programs. Don't put me on the spot like that, man. I mean, people from Wakefield are right here. So with that, if we can give our panelists a round of applause for their